We'll start up in a second.
You remember the Zoom.
I remember the Zoom, and I
Get things
remember
also
try to
right,
hold
we'll
it
get some right.
relatively straight so people don't get seasick, and try not to sway back and forth with the music
Oh, man.
and all that other good stuff.
By way of announcements, tomorrow night,
Which is Saturday.
6:30 to 8.
Which is Saturday night, by the way, for those of you.
Saturday night, the 18th. There will be the third Saturday music night, sometimes called Praise and Gospel Night, at Tenney Chapel, Family Life. On the bill will be Doc Davis, the singing storyteller. There will be Eddie Owen and his magnificent musicians. And there will be the Wendell brothers, Travis and Todd, great old-time gospel singers. The Wood County Lion Bluegrass Band, led by Eugene and Delene Allen, Quitman. And we'll close with George Jordan, the original Tenney Chapel troubadour. Now, a week from tomorrow night, the 25th of February, there will be a Lord's Acre celebration at same place, Tenney Chapel Family Life Center. If you want to eat the meal, there'll be a great meal there. There will be a charge for the meal, $5. But the main part of the program is a silent auction of a whole lot of really cool stuff. And there'll be a live auction. Matt Hicks, a cowboy from Tenney Chapel, is also a trained auctioneer, and he will do live auction of some other things. All these items are really cool, and most people will want all of them. So show up, and you have a chance to bid on these things. I will say that as I was leaving actually a couple of hours before was time to leave, I had decided I was going to do 2 or 3 short cowboy poetry selections, and I actually got down 2 of my favorite books, cowboy poetry books.
Right.
One of which I had bought at the Ranch Heritage Center in Lubbock when I attended that annual meeting. I attended that annual meeting 2 or 3 times when I was with the Farm Journal, and one time, and they always have a whole bunch of cowboy poetry is a big part of that, and I bought a book of original poems by a cowboy poet named Jack Douglas, who appealed to me, and I had picked out one of his that I was going to read, and then there was an old cowboy poetry book that was published in 1937, and I was a little too young at the time that book came out to have ever known the poet in person, but he was a good, he was a good writer of cowboy poetry, and I had picked out one of each of those that I was going to read, and I had my camera stuff off in another chair, ready for me to pick up as I left, but I failed to put the cowboy poetry books in that chair, and I left them. I just put them down beside me after I'd picked them out, and just walked off and left them and picked up my stuff. So I'm going to read a couple of poems. One will be by Edgar Guest, who when he was alive, and he was very, very popular in his lifetime. Most of us in here are, as old as we are not quite old enough to remember Edgar Guest in his prime. He was a little bit before us in terms of his fame, but I read a lot of his work, and I would like to have known him and would like to have been alive when he wrote and was famous. The one I think of his that I believe there's 2 here really on 2 pages. I think the one I'm going to select though is one called "How Do You Tackle Your Work?" And the reason I'm going to read that one, I think, is because I grew up on a hardscrabble farm, and I was a little bit of a cowboy. I don't mean like we had a ranch or anything. We had a lot of cows though, and my brother and I would go out and ride these little young bull calves, and we'd pull the tail over our shoulder and, you know, and ride them until they bucked us off. And this was while the calves were still young enough that we could do that with them, you know, and not get hurt or anything. And, you know, it was our job to go bring the cows in each evening, the cows that had to be milked or put in stalls or whatever. But, you know, so we kind of did some light cowboy work. We were mostly dirt farmers, but, you know, I've always thought of myself as having a little bit of the cowboy in me, a whole lot of the cowboy worldview, I think. I think most Americans do have a good bit of that in their person, no matter if even if they grew up in downtown New York like Conrad did. But one of the things that, you know, I grew up with that kind of work, and I can't say that I thoroughly enjoyed all of that farm work. You know, when I did it because I had to do it. You know, it was just something that we knew we had to do. You know, I didn't have to be whipped to do the work or anything. It's just that it was something that it was a duty, and it was hard work. You know, and I knew when I was growing up that that wasn't what I wanted to spend my life doing when I became an adult. As it turned out, I became a writer, a farm news writer. You know, I stayed in agriculture and all that. But the thing was that I loved that work. You know, I mean, it was like people said, if you love your work, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and that sort of thing. That's the way I was about being a farm news writer. Oh, I mean, I love that work. You know, I would, you know, if people would hire me at my age, I'd still do it, you know, and all that. It was that, you know, to be able to every day wake up looking forward to do whatever it was you were going to do that day, and know that you're going to have a great day. You know, it's a wonderful feeling, and I did that, you know, for really 50 years, 40 of those with Farm Journal. And whatever, and I'm going to just kind of give you Edgar Guest's view of how do you tackle your work. Remember, he was everybody's poet laureate, or as a cowboy would say, poet lariat, you know, in his day. How do you tackle your work each day? Are you scared of the job you find? Do you grapple the task that comes your way with a confident, easy mind? Do you stand right up to the work ahead, or fearfully pause to view it? Or do you start to toil with a sense of dread, or feel that you're going to do it? You can do as much as you think you can, but you'll never accomplish more. If you're afraid of yourself, young man, there's little for you in store. For failure comes from the inside first. If there we knew it. And you can win, though you face the worst, if you feel that you're going to do it. Success is found in the soul of you, and not in the realm of luck. The world will furnish the work you do, but you must provide the pluck. You can do whatever you think you can. It's all in the way you view it. It's all in the start that you make, young man. You must feel that you're going to do it. How do you tackle your work each day? With confidence clear or dread? What to yourself do you stop and say when a new task lies ahead? What is the thought that is in your mind? Is fear ever running through it? If so, just tackle the next you find by thinking you're going to do it.
All right.
Edgar Guest, just a great poet. Common man's poet, as he was known in his day. He was kind of like me. He didn't follow any rules of poetry. He just wrote down what came to his mind. And then this book I bought from a farmer named Michael Carey, who was an Iowa farmer who attended a Farm Journal meeting one time, and he was invited. You know, he was an invited guest because he had achieved some fame through his poetry. He was a working farmer, And he had this and I think another couple of books published of his poetry. This is part of the Iowa Poets series, and he read some of his stuff at our Farm Journal meeting, and we were mostly all impressed with it. I certainly was. And this one is titled Epiphany. He didn't necessarily write about farm work or anything like that. Sometimes he did, but he was a much more broader worldview. And Epiphany goes this way. It's a fairly short poem, half a page here. At 4 in the morning, there is little air can do to make him smile, yet he does, or wants to. When he closes the door to the parlor, icicles gush from his beard like thawing waterfalls, like the fading arms of lovers, too proud to kiss him, too stubborn to go. He scrubs down the tub and pans and the buckets, and the cows call themselves in, eager for milking. His hands work the pump unthinkingly, efficient from routine use. For a reason he cannot explain, he feels grateful, alone in the shed he has tended for years. Something in his chest melts, an old sorrow, forgotten joy, snow from his childhood. For the rest of his life, he tells no one. And thank you. Here is our paragraph from How to Read a Poem. Subtitle, And Fall in Love with Poetry by Edward Hirsch. Remember, we ended last month one verse into a poem. So today's paragraph will be the second verse of the poem. And there are corpses, feet made of cold and sticky clay. Death is inside the bones, like a barking where there are no dogs, coming out from bells somewhere, from graves somewhere, growing in the damp air like tears or rain. Let's see, did anyone have any announcements they forgot to make?
Not that I can think of.
We're still doing our Tuesday night music at Richie's. We had an offset this week because of Valentine. They had the two girls, Hannah and Haley, playing.
Oh, that's who was playing?
Yeah.
I see. Well, I talked to Ron, and he told me that it had been canceled because of Valentine program. He didn't tell me who was singing.
Right. So we're back to our regular schedule. It's coming Tuesday, from 6 o'clock till 8. Any musicians are welcome to bring their acoustic instrument and, sit down and play with us. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, tomorrow night, Tennis Chapel, music night. Next Saturday night, the Lord's Acre dinner for $5. Then a free program of family entertainment where we'll wind up with silent auction and a live auction of items that are just too cool to describe. And I know that those of you who have time to be there will go home, your car laden with
too cool stuff.
treasures and useful stuff.
All right, here's your recorder back.
Still
Still